She vanished without a trace. No goodbyes, no final messages, just silence. But the chilling truth, the person who reported her missing already knew she was dead.
Hiya, it's Mrs. Walker. I'm just ringing to report my 17-year-old daughter missing.
Okay, I'll get a report for you there. How long has she been missing?
Well, she ran away on Saturday lunchtime, but I knew where she was until she started messaging like 1 a.m. Yesterday morning.
This is the horrifying case of Bernadette Walker. A crime so twisted it will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about trust, love, and betrayal. What really happened to her? And who was hiding the truth all along? Let's uncover the darkest secrets behind this shocking case. The Vanishing. What happened to Bernadette Walker? Have you ever wondered how someone can just disappear overnight? One moment, 19-year-old Bernadette Walker was full of dreams, living in Peterborough, UK with her family. The next, she was gone, without a single clue left behind. At first, it seemed like an ordinary missing persons case. A young woman leaving home, maybe running away. But nothing about this case was ordinary. Her disappearance would soon reveal secrets that had been buried for years. Secrets that someone was willing to kill to protect. And the worst part? The killer was closer than anyone could have imagined. The police initially treated it as a routine missing persons case, urging the public to come forward with information. But as days turned into weeks, the case took a darker turn. Investigators began noticing inconsistencies in the family's statements. Something didn't add up, and the truth was about to surface in the most chilling way. The last call, the night. She was seen alive. Bernadette Walker was last seen alive that evening. Her father, Scott Walker, picked her up from her grandparents' house. She sent one last message to her mother, and then silence. No calls, no texts, no trace. What happened in that car? Scott Walker claimed he dropped her off near their home and never saw her again, but police would later find chilling evidence that this was a lie. A very well-crafted lie, because while the world thought she was missing, her killer was already covering his tracks. The messages sent from her phone after she vanished were later proven to be fake. Scott Walker continued acting like she was alive, manipulating those around him. The longer the search continued, the deeper his deception became. But no lie could hold up forever. Justice was closing in. The dark secrets, behind closed doors. On the outside, the Walkers seemed like any other family. A modest household, living an unassuming life in Peterborough. They didn't attract much attention. But behind closed doors, Bernadette had been living in fear. She had a secret, one that she confided in her mother just days before she disappeared. A secret that, if exposed, could destroy everything. It wasn't just an accusation. It was a desperate cry for help from a daughter trapped in a nightmare. Bernadette had accused her father, Scott Walker, of sexual abuse. The weight of this revelation shook the very foundation of their home. She could no longer stay silent. She had reached a breaking point and was ready to seek justice, to break free from the cycle of fear and pain. And that was the moment everything changed. Her accusations weren't just a threat to Scott Walker. They were a direct attack on the twisted reality he had built. He knew that if the truth got out, his world would come crashing down. The trust of those around him would shatter, and the consequences would be dire. Was it just a coincidence that she vanished right after making these claims? Or was Scott Walker trying to ensure her voice would never be heard again? Was this the act of a desperate man willing to do anything to silence his victim? The answers to these questions would unravel one of the most chilling crimes in recent history, revealing a dark and sinister truth lurking behind the walls of the Walker home. The cover-up, a father's web of lies. For weeks, Scott Walker played the role of the worried father. He put on a facade of desperation, telling friends, family, and the police that he was frantic with worry. He called Bernadette's phone, leaving desperate voicemails, his voice filled with feigned concern. Each unanswered call was a performance. each message a carefully crafted illusion. He messaged her on social media, pretending to be searching for her. He wanted the world to believe he was a heartbroken father longing for his daughter's safe return. He even posted online appeals urging Bernadette to come home, knowing full well that she never would. He even lied to the police, saying she had simply run away. He spun a story about a rebellious teenager who had taken off on her own, attempting to steer the investigation in the wrong direction. His deception was meticulous, designed to buy him time and keep the authorities from looking too closely at him. But behind the scenes, he was erasing evidence. Any trace of Bernadette that could link him to her disappearance had to be wiped away. He meticulously deleted messages, fabricated alibis, and covered his tracks with chilling precision. He knew that if investigators dug too deep, his dark secret would be exposed. He and Bernadette's mother, Sarah Walker, were caught on CCTV withdrawing money from Bernadette's bank account, weeks after she had already been dead. They moved through the streets like nothing had happened, treating their daughter's tragic fate as a mere inconvenience to cover up. Their actions reeked of guilt, yet they carried on as if their web of lies could hold forever. They knew the truth. But they weren't just hiding a crime, they were hiding a murder. And as time passed, the cracks in their story would begin to show. The facade of innocence was slipping, and soon the walls were closing in on them. The discovery. How investigators pieced it together. For months, Bernadette's body was nowhere to be found. No crime scene, no physical proof. But something wasn't adding up. Detectives uncovered disturbing activity on Scott Walker's phone. Searches about body disposal and locations that suggested he had been planning something long before Bernadette vanished. Then came the damning evidence. Scott's phone GPS data placed him at a remote area, far from home, on the night of her disappearance. His text messages to Sarah Walker sounded more like a co-conspirator's instructions than a grieving parent's pleas. This wasn't just a missing persons case anymore. This was cold-blooded murder. The moment of truth. How a father became a killer. What would push a father to murder his daughter? Scott Walker was losing control. Bernadette was no longer afraid of him. She was speaking up about what he had done. And Scott, he saw only one way out. On that fateful night, inside his car, Scott Walker silenced Bernadette forever. A final act of power. And just like that, the person she trusted the most became her worst nightmare. The trial, a chilling testimony. By the time Scott Walker stood trial, the evidence was overwhelming. The prosecution exposed the years of manipulation and control. Sarah Walker, Bernadette's mother, turned on him in court, admitting she had helped cover up the crime because she was afraid of him. But fear wasn't an excuse. The truth was clear. Scott Walker had murdered Bernadette in cold blood, then spent weeks creating an illusion that she was alive, but no illusion could hide the truth forever. The verdict. Did Bernadette finally get justice? When the jury returned, the room fell silent. Scott Walker was found guilty of murder, life in prison. But was it enough? Bernadette was gone, her dreams stolen, her voice silenced. Justice had been served, but at what cost? The haunting legacy of Bernadette Walker. Even today, Bernadette's story remains a chilling warning. A reminder that sometimes, the most dangerous monsters aren't strangers in the dark, but the people we trust the most. Her murder exposed the terrifying reality of abuse, control, and manipulation. And the question remains, how many more will suffer before we start listening? The bigger picture. The silent victims of abuse. Bernadette's case is not an isolated tragedy. Every year, thousands of victims suffer abuse in silence, too afraid to speak out. And when they do, they are often met with disbelief, fear, or worse, deadly consequences. The justice system can convict murderers, but can it prevent future victims? What needs to change? Stronger protections for victims, harsher punishments for abusers, better support systems. One thing is certain. We cannot afford to ignore these cries for help any longer. Your thoughts? Now, I want to hear from you. Which part of this horrifying case shocked you the most? Leave a comment below and let's talk about it. And if you want more true crime stories that uncover the darkest truths, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because the truth, it's always scarier than fiction.